Hi kids, it's April 1st. It's my last day here in San Antonio. We have some pretty nasty weather coming in tomorrow, so we decided to actually leave a day early. So I'm kind of rushing at 90 degrees to come out and give you a little bit of a lesson. So this is the outer palisade wall of what we call the Alamo. The Alamo is actually the church. It's actually Spanish for cottonwood or poplar tree. Those trees you guys see, those little helicopters that come down and almost looks like a cotton coming out of the tree. That's what that is. And so the Spanish were actually guarding, actually would have been Mexico, not the Spanish, forgive me. The Mexicans were actually guarding this area, which was called Mission de San Antonio de Valero. And this was the first fort they built in this area. And the reason it's called a mission is because the mission was to turn the natives to Christian. And so they built this mission here. That's what you think of when you think of the Alamo, or what Taco Bell used to look like back in the day. And that's the flag of Texas there. Texas was actually its own republic, its own country for 10 years until they joined the United States, which is called annexation or joining. So here's the real deal. So what happened is this is pretty far from Mexico City. And so Spanish and then the Mexicans decided that it would be better. So this is the square, Alamo Square. So this would have been the only thing here. Today it's a city of 4 million. Back then it was just a few buildings that were built around the church here. And then there would have been a wall all the way around. You guys can see palisades over there sticking up. And there's some more palisades that they just built this new section over here to the right that's showing you what the outer wall would have looked like. I can't get in, unfortunately. It just hit 5:30 and it closes at 5:30, so I can't walk around the inside. Some of those live oak trees over there, that really massive one there in the background, has been there since the Battle of the Alamo happened in 1836. It's the one that really spans wide back there. So here's what happened. The Mexican army left a small platoon of about 20 men called the Alamo Brigade. And their job was basically to hold this spot. And then what ended up happening was whites from America were moving in, and they were starting cotton plantations and just taking land in general. And the president at the time, Polk, was just giving 4,800 acre plots to every adult male. And so some families like the Parkers in North Texas came in and brought all of the adult males and ended up getting around 200,000 acres. Which is a massive amount of land, as I'm sure you guys can remember when we talked about acres and how big that is. And they ran into native tribes like the Comanche, sorry guys, I had to move away from a big group there. So the Comanche would just slaughter them as soon as they got close by because they were invading their territory, right? And then the Apache would do the same thing. Then the Kiowa would do the same thing. And those tribes were not friends, but they would just band together and fight against the invaders, basically. And the thing that they were mainly fighting against was, you guessed it, slavery. So when Mexico got its independence from Spain in 1810, one of the first things it did was it banned slavery. Not just for human rights issues, but like we talked about before, if you're a poor person, you can't afford slaves. And so what would happen is the rich would dominate everything. And so the first thing you do is you ban slavery, not because it's the right thing to do, but because you literally can't compete. One of the cool things here is I've been visiting this for years, visiting my uncle. My parents met here in 1971 or 1970 before they got married, is they've been trying to bring back some of the vegetation. You can see yucca plants, aloe vera, prickly pear back there. You got the live oaks here, some mesquite, which is that thing right in front of us. You could burn that for wood and barbecue. This is that palisade that I was telling you guys about over here. This is new. This whole section here is new. They're building that as like a museum over in that direction, and they're trying to restore what's called the facade or the exterior to be like it was back in the day. So on the left is what it would look like. On the right is what it looks like now. So they're trying to take that left, renovate it to look like it would have, and then the right, they're trying to match it. So what happens is March 5th of 1836, a group of white men who had taken over this area, white men and women and a few native Texans, were pulled into the Alamo, and for about 5 months they had taken over the spot. Well, Mexico wanted it back because the Americans were bringing slavery in, and that was outlawed. So General Santa Anna, who was also the president at the time of Mexico, he shows up with 2,500 troops against 187 Texans who were in this fort, and basically, being the dummies that they were, like Duncan would be, they decided to die fighting, and that's what happens. So you can see actually on this map right here, this is what it would have looked like at the time. So you can see there's the church off to the right there, and then here is the outer wall of the entire mission. The mission being, remember, to be able to convert the natives to Christianity. They had farms in here, and the idea was to build a little community, which is a good idea. You can see these little pathways up here to be able to use for cannons. And so inside this wall, not inside the church over here, but inside this wall and inside this wall is where the battle happened, with the Texans having the high ground until they just were basically overrun, almost kind of like Bunker Hill. And then they all died there. And about 3 months later, Sam Houston, the only man who wasn't there, Houston, obviously, you guys recognize, he got a bunch of troops together, and with the idea of taking Texas back from Mexico, because Mexico at that point was like, hey, we're going back to Mexico City. This is way too far. We're thousands of miles away from home. This land sucks. It's really dry. And so they basically didn't send their best, and Sam Houston ends up cornering them up against a river just east of here at a place called San Jacinto, and the Battle of San Jacinto lasted 18 minutes, with Santa Anna running away, hiding underneath one of these oak trees, not here, but there, and trying to disguise himself as a peasant with a sombrero. They found him, grabbed him, hanged him. Then this becomes the Republic of Texas for 10 years, thriving cotton plantations, slavery explodes here, cotton explodes in the United States, digging slavery in for another 30 years until we fight the Civil War to end it. So this is my quick and dirty lesson on the Battle of the Alamo, the Republic of Texas. And then in 1846, 10 years later, America finally convinces Texas that they're better off joining America and being a part of its economy than trying to go it on their own. And that's exactly what happened. And Texas becomes a part of the United States in 1846 after 10 years on its own. That's why they have that solo star on their flag, because they were literally their own country, and they modeled after our red, white, and blue. I will see you guys on Monday. I hope you had a great spring break.